Hi everyone, it's Neil. This is the beginning of our writing up together. Now these are the overall learning outcomes and assessments for Module 2, which is the Linking Theory and Practice module. And you will see, I know we've gone through all this before, but let's just make sure we've really got it. You will see that there are 3 assignments, and I've just put the little line around the middle one just to sort of separate the slide up into 3 different areas. So the first assignment is your longer essay, which is about 2,500 words, and it deals with the first 3 learning outcomes. We will come to that later on this term. The second assignment is the one we're going to do today, which is the one on student support, and that's about 750 words. And the third assignment we're going to do next week, and that's the one about quality enhancement, and that also is about 750 words. So all we're going to deal with today is the one that's marked as number 4 on this first slide, and it's in the little box in the middle, and it's the one on student support. So let's just hone in on the learning outcome and the assessment itself. So the learning outcome for this is that you need to demonstrate a critically reflective understanding of student support, showing awareness of any relevant legal frameworks and requirements in post-compulsory education. So I think the 2 things there are, first of all, critically reflective. So how are you going to show that you're critically reflective? Well, you're going to show this by explaining why you did what you did, right? And then evaluating how successful that was, and then saying what you've learned from it. That's what critically reflective is going to be. So explaining why you did what you did, saying how well it went, evaluating how well it went, and giving some evidence for that, and showing what you've learned from it. And the assessment actually lays out step by step what you need to do, because you're asked to write an evaluative, so I've just described that, anonymised case study of student support in which you've been involved, demonstrating the following steps: your ability to identify a student's individual support needs, your ability to create a plan for working with the student, your ability to put the plan into action, and your ability to evaluate the degree to which the plan was successful. And you're going to have to be very crisp here because you've got about 750 words. Now, I know in the tutorials I had with people at the 2-day events, everyone had really great ideas about this, and I'm quite sure that's going to be true for everyone else as well. But just as a few thought starters for anyone who hasn't had their tutorial yet, you can write about an individual student, or you can write about a small group of students. It's more usual to write about individual students, but there's no reason why you couldn't write about 2 or 3 students who came and worked with you together on the same issue. That's fine. It doesn't really matter how you worked with somebody. It might have the support you offered might have been in class. It might have been in tutorials. It might have been in other ways, such as on work placements. But it's all okay. It doesn't particularly matter how you worked with somebody. You may have had a student who came with a specific statemented learning need, so you got a thing from the office saying, oh, this person's got dyslexia, or this person's got ADHD, or whatever. Or it may not have been a specific statemented need. It may have been something you picked up, or the student came and talked to you about themselves. Again, it's absolutely fine either way. That will impact on whether you do or don't need to refer to any specific legal requirements. For students, for example, with disabilities, then yes, there are legal requirements on us. So if it's a situation where there is a legal framework, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff about that later on in this presentation, then you do need to show that you're aware of it. If it's a situation where, I don't know, a student came and they just wanted to work on their confidence to get up on stage, there's no legal implications around any of that. You're just giving somebody some help, so there's nothing you need to refer to there. So it just all completely depends on what you've chosen. And it's really important that you keep your students anonymous in your write-up. So you need to remember to deal with each part of the essay. This is probably the most important slide, right? So the first thing is to answer the question, how did you become aware of your students' specific needs? As ever, of course, I'm going to give you the essay plan in the form of questions, because I always think, well, if you answer questions, then pretty much automatically you're writing in a way which is going to be critical and evaluative. The danger here is you don't want to end up writing an essay which is just a description of what you did, right? You need to be explaining what you did and reflecting on how well it worked, and that's what's going to make it critically evaluative, and not just a kind of a what I did in my summer holidays sort of essay. So first of all, how did you become aware of your students' specific needs? Then secondly, okay, what did you decide to do? How did you create a plan for supporting your student, and what informed this plan? Did you do any uh, reading? Did you discuss with the student? Did you discuss with colleagues? Were there legal requirements? So let us in really here on your thinking. What underlay your thinking for doing the plan, and really you're answering the question. Okay, so what made me plan it in this way? Why did I do it like this? That's what we need to know. Then we need to know a little bit about how you put your plan into action, but then more importantly, keep that short. More importantly, right, evaluating that plan, what worked well and what didn't. I mean, this is a very familiar way of writing on the PG Cert. We use this all the time, don't we? What's your evidence for that? So you say this worked well, this didn't work well. What's your evidence? And what evidence have you got for what difference did this make to the student? Did you see an improvement in their performance? Did you see them become more confident? Did their attendance go up? What kind of evidence is there that this worked? And then finally, your evaluation. How successful do you think your support was? Why was that? And what have you learned from this? Now, if you just structure your essay around those 4 little sets of questions, I think you should write something that's really good and absolutely meets the brief. Okay. Now, if you need to bring in any of the legal frameworks, you'll find that there's a very good list of sources included in the UK Quality Code for Higher Education, Chapter B4. You can easily find this on Google, which is the chapter on enabling student development and achievement. You'll find it on the Quality Assurance Agency website, but I say if you just Google this, you'll find it. And then you might want to have a little look at it and pursue any resources that seem most relevant to your case study. So here's a nice little bit from the code, and again, you might want to shove a little quote in from this. Now remember, we're looking for 30 different references across the whole of the linking theory and practice assignment. So you may or may not find that you get many references into this particular section. You'll probably find that the vast majority of them end up in the essay part, but if you can get a couple of little references in here, this is good. Quoting from the code is often quite a good idea. You'll see there's lots of nice stuff on this page, all about kind of student-centered support. So there might be something here that you want to quote because it resonates with you. And your other opportunity to quote, of course, was in the bit where you were writing about putting your plan together, because you might have read something or done a bit of research which helped inform how you decided to do your plan. Also in the code, you'll have to obviously pause on these slides because there's an awful lot of words on them. Also on the code, there is a really useful list of what they see, well, this was 2013, so it's a couple of years ago, but what they saw at the time as the main resources available, and it's certainly fine to keep on using those. And they haven't put subheadings in, but you will notice they're themed. So on this first page, ignoring the bottom 2, all of that first lot of stuff is all related to the Equality Act 2010 and the duties that came out on us for that. Then the bottom 2 are relating specifically to students with disabilities, and these are things that come from practitioners in the field. So that's what I like about a lot of these resources. They're written by the students themselves, or by service users, or by practitioners, so they're very practical. Okay. The next set of slides, the top 2, more on disability and specifically on ways of using technology to support students with disabilities, so that's interesting. Then we get 1, 2, 3, which are around ethnicity, gender and degree attainment. Then we get a couple which are on male students and whether or not they actually engage with academic and pastoral support services. Often not, actually. There can be a real issue. In fact, I had an email just yesterday of a student who hadn't asked for support when he needed it and now had found himself in a bit of a pickle, and that's quite typical often for younger male students, so that might be relevant to somebody. The bottom one there around supporting LGB students, trans staff and students, a couple on religious observations, and a couple on international students, and a final one for mature students. You never know, there might be something in some of that which might be useful for you in your action research projects as well, so it's worth having a little look through that list and seeing whether any of those things resonate for you or not. Okay, and that's it for this week. So looking forward to seeing what everyone puts up on the blog. 750 words on your student support. Brilliant.